Hello, welcome to a video where I'm going to introduce something me and my good friend Amanda have been working on. A podcast. It is called Stadium Cast. We will be releasing episodes every Friday on YouTube and Spotify, amongst other channels. And basically, what it's going to be about is we'll have a guest on every single week to talk about PvP or about them. This could be a community member, could be a content creator. Most of the time, someone we know, someone who's performed well at something that we want to put a spotlight on. So we are quite new to this, at least the first few episodes, so the audio might be a little bit dim at times. We already bought new equipment as well. These episodes usually will be around 35 to 40 minutes, with the exception of this one, because sometimes I do them live on my Twitch stream. If you follow my Twitch, you'll see when that is. And yeah, this one was on my birthday stream, so it's a little bit longer. It's with Wholesome, though. Super cool guy. He's been casting play Pokemon tournaments. He streams on Twitch. He's been on one of my YouTube videos, one of my most watched YouTube videos as well, I'd have to say. So yeah, I hope you like the podcast. Please drop a follow if you do. I'll drop the Spotify link down in the description as well, and enjoy.
Welcome back, everyone, to a brand spanking new Stadium Cast. You might recognize we sound a little bit different, and that's because there are some new hosts here. For those of you who don't know, I am Amanda, also known in-game as Lundberger.
And you may know me as Inadequance, but you may also call me Martijn. And welcome to another episode of Stadium Cast, where we will be regularly introducing a community member that you may know. And often we will also talk about other PvP news.
For the most part, you're going to hear us every week, but I'm pretty excited. These are new kind of formats, right? We're not going to just discuss the nitty-gritty about PvP. We're actually going to get into like what makes this community tick and some familiar faces that a lot of you know, and also some people that we might introduce to you this chat. We're following along with the play tournaments a lot. We might bring on some winners or some people who have been competing and just get some different perspectives along the lines. Martijn, do you want to kind of talk about our first guest that we had on and maybe explain why this format is a little bit different than what they're going to get in the future?
Yes, thank you, Amanda. Our first guest will be someone I think everyone knows, someone who loves to talk. You may know him from Twitch as a streamer, a pretty popular streamer, and he's also a pretty good play Pokemon caster.
Yeah, that's right. We have Wholesome. It's going to be great. One side note before we get into it, this interview is a little bit longer than our normal format. Normally, our interviews are going to be around half an hour, but I mean, we had so much fun talking with them, and also, I mean, it was Martijn's birthday at the time too. We had to do a little bit of celebration.
It's true. We had Wholesome up for a full hour. So here comes a full hour of entertainment. Wholesome underscore. Welcome in, Wholesome, aka
Thank you very
Jim.
much.
How are you doing?
Good to be here. Yeah, Martijn and Amanda, thanks for having me on here. Happy birthday, Inadequance, first off. It's been fun watching your stream, dude.
Thank you so much. We're very excited to have you here. I know you are a great talker, right? We've seen you shoutcast a couple of those play Pokemon tournaments. I really love to see you smile on those, Jim. Can I ask you something about that? Have you ever thought about working at like a radio station or something? I feel like you really have the voice for that, or the attitude.
It's funny. I definitely get a lot of enthusiasm that translates into the stream for sure. I don't feel that I have that radio voice. Oh, that's so loud. Let me turn down your notifications here.
Sorry.
Hold on. That's so loud. No, so as far as radio goes, I definitely enjoy talking, of course, and I think that I enjoy music a lot. So I think it'd be a fun profession. But I think I have more of a passion for video games than I do for music. So I think that's why we're seeing me translate to something like casting rather than like DJing. You know?
Yeah, that's fair. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself? I think I went a little bit too quick there. Like I already know you. Many of us know us already, but for those who don't know you, who are you exactly?
Yeah. So guys, thanks. Thank you again for having me on. Wholesome underscore. You can call me Jim. I am let's see. I'm gonna be 32 this year. I live in Austin, Texas, and I'm not a full-time streamer, but I stream quite a bit. And on the side, I also do a lot of casting as well for the Pokemon company. I've been playing Pokemon Go technically since day one. But I took about a 3-year break and picked the game back up maybe summer 2019. So I've been playing consecutively since then. For the most part, just a big PvPer. I don't really do any sort of hardcore raiding or grinding or catching or shiny hunting. PvP is what's always been the draw for me in pretty much every game that I've ever played throughout my gaming career. And it's where I've met all my friends here on Twitch. And that's translated to me having some casting opportunities with the Pokemon Company. So I'll go around to some of their different tournaments and shoutcast their games along with a lot of other talented individuals as well, like Inadequence and Amanda here.
So, I mean, obviously, we haven't got a cast with you yet, Jim, but
Yet.
and I don't want to, put you on fire here in front of everyone. But do you have a favorite person that you enjoyed casting with, or a favorite moment so far of things that you've done?
Yeah, so actually, we just got done with Fort Wayne, and Fort Wayne was a lot of fun. I got a cast with Speediest Chief, and I did get a cast with Caleb as well. But Speediest Chief is one of the people that I've been casting with probably for the longest time. We used to do a lot of grassroots things like Aero Draft League and some other formats as well, like some Sylph Team Up type of stuff. So it had been at least a year since the two of us had casted together. So I think we executed really nicely. I think we had a lot of opportunities to bounce off each other's ideas and off each other's analogies and metaphors and things like that. So yeah, I really enjoyed casting with Speediest Chief. I will say probably the most fun I have casting has got to be Alpha Phoebe, just because he's such a close friend of mine and we've been casting together quite a bit recently. And then obviously, I mean, anyone I get paired with, whether it's Caleb, whether it's DeFi, whether it's Butters, I mean, I have a great time with all of them. But I think that I really enjoy casting with Speedy, and then got to give some love to my homie Alpha Phoebe, one of my best friends.
I feel the same way. Phoebe's is a really nice guy. How did you guys all get like together? Right, you had the four Papegas. Currently,
Yeah.
that's a little bit. Phoebe and Charles got a job now, so they're last around, right?
It's an interesting kind of dynamic. I think that the initial impetus for people getting together and connecting, it wasn't even actually. I mean, it was kind of Pokemon Go. Everyone had their own Twitch stream that they were kind of doing their own battles and things like that. But the game that got everyone playing together regularly and kind of deepening some of the friendships was actually Genshin Impact. We did like a
Really?
variety stream one time with the four of us, and like we had no idea what we were doing, but we all just wanted to play a game together. And yeah, it was fun. We kind of grinded that for maybe 3 to 6 months, a decent amount, maybe longer. I don't know, but inevitably, people's interest in the game started to dwindle a little bit, and people started going their own ways. People started streaming less. Very different than a year or 2 years ago, without a doubt. But everything got started initially from a Genshin Impact stream.
Interesting. I've seen Seven Evan play that before as well, right? Also, unfortunately, someone who doesn't stream as much anymore. I didn't. You didn't really strike me as someone who plays as we call it, weep games.
Yeah, there's definitely full of waifus and husbandos, without a doubt. No, I mean, like, I
Mostly
watch some
Azra's
anime,
thing, right?
and what's that?
Mostly Azra's thing. Was his idea as well?
That was definitely, he was the most passionate about the game, you can say,
Yeah,
without a doubt.
I'm not
Yeah.
surprised.
But I think that no, I like anime, and I like I like reading like manga and stuff like that. But I wouldn't say that I'm like necessarily obsessed or know it nearly as well as a lot of other people. I think what was enjoyable about the game was that it was a game that you could just put a lot of hours into, and never felt like it got too stale. You normally had something that you could do,
Mhm.
that you could continue progressing or building upon. It was very similar to Zelda's Breath of the Wild
Oh,
from the Zelda franchise.
no, I did like that one.
Yeah, a lot of people really like that game. So they took that general open world concept with the resource gathering and climbing and a lot of the same things. They added some different abilities and different characters that you can play as, and kind of turn it into a gacha game with like loot boxes and stuff like that. So it was fun for a bit, but I mean, it was kind of it didn't really want to spend a whole lot of money on it, and it did feel stale after a while.
We have a question from the chat that want to know, what is your inspiration for your Twitter content?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, because I know exactly what Capital Kilos is asking. He's asking about an imposter Wholesome underscore. So I'm Wholesome Pogo on Twitter. Let's just clarify that first and foremost. Wholesome underscore on Twitter. I'm not going to get into the content here necessarily, but let me say it is not inspired or reflective of me, Wholesome underscore on Twitch.
He's got nothing to do with it. Nothing to do. Yeah, if you got questions from the chat, keep them coming. So Wholesome, Speaking of like variety games, how did you get in all of this? Because when I first saw you, I saw you, with all due respect, as a normie Pokemon Go PvP player who just copied Caleb Peng's team, right?
Yeah, that's when I
The
first started
Skarmory
playing for
double
sure.
grass.
I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what I want my content to be. I pretty much had zero idea or inspiration. I was just showing up and playing teams that I kind of felt like I knew, and hoping some people would watch. I had
Hmm.
no concept of how to be entertaining, no concept of how to set up a streaming equipment. I wasn't really a streamer. I was just someone that kind of knew the game a little bit and wanted to showcase some of my battles to my locals, like Shrooge, for instance. He saw me early on. um, but no, I mean, kind of learning from a lot of other streamers, looking at people that are either really good battlers or people that are really good entertainers. I think that I started to find a little bit of inspiration from some other people, as well as some inspiration from, within me. And it's kind of translated to a lot of different things. I think I've played in the realm of 20 to 25 full games on stream at this point. Obviously, Pokemon Go is still kind of the main content, but I found a couple other niches that I like to invest in from time to time. Things like Kaizo, especially, and variety games here and there. But I think what's really inspired a lot of it has been the community that's been built, the kind of Discord community, between myself and a couple other streamers. And a lot of the content just naturally comes from those people, wanting to set up a
Hmm.
platform for them to participate. It's
Golf.
less just about me individually playing one game on stream and people watching me play that one game. I think moreover now, a lot of it has to do with what are some games that the community can interact with or even play together. And I think that's helped inspire some of the gaming choices moving forward.
Absolutely. So your server, I think, in the Pokemon Go PvP community is like the most active one, if I were to say so. I'm a little jealous myself at times. How did it come to that? You think?
I
Is
think
it
there's a
you
couple
or is it the
reasons.
people?
I mean, it's a little bit of both. I think that maybe initially it was me to draw some people in that wanted to watch good battles. I wouldn't even say that's what my stream is so much about these days. Um, but I think that I think that there's a lot of community focused things that we do in the Discord, games like Sheep and stuff like that. There's been a lot of chatter, but I mean, part of it is a little bittersweet as well. I think that some of the increased activity recently is because of some other people's communities that have dropped off or faded out, fizzled out. So you look at some of the people that used to stream very regularly and they would have very active stream Discords. And a lot of the chatter for the overall Twitch Pokemon Go scene was spread out across so many different
Hmm.
communities. There's been a little bit of a contraction. There's been a little bit of a consolidation between some of those communities. So people have had to go find new homes. And in many cases, a very active, popular Discord like my own will be that destination for some people. So I think that's the first element, is that we've seen a contraction in the community and the overall scene from COVID to where we are now. Um, but secondly, I think that I can attribute a lot of the expansion to people like Crimson and people like Mish, who I share the Discord with. And I think that once I recognized that there is a greater opportunity than just having the Discord be about me and a place for people that follow me to hang out, but more of a expanded community, the wholesome underscore universe, maybe we can call expanded universe, we can call it. I think that once we kind of diversified some of the people's interests, although we're very, very like-minded in many cases. So because we have those overlaps, it was very easy just to extend the community
Hmm.
reach to Crimson and to Mish, and the rest is kind of history. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think
Yeah.
Crimson first had like his own server setup, right? But then he decided to
Yep.
integrate with you.
He had his own Discord, and then he had one channel within his Discord that was for the Papegas, that was for like the streaming community. The rest of it was for like all his locals and stuff. And yeah, people. I mean, it was okay. It was kind of a meme, but I think that a lot of people feel at home in the wholesome hangout, and I'm glad to share it with people that I consider some of my closest friends.
Yeah, I had asked you because you have one of your emotes is this one of you with the boom. And so I asked if I could steal it because one of our players in Belgium is screening is boom, but it's BOEM. But a lot of people don't know how to pronounce it. So I was trying to explain to you, like, oh, yes, in the Netherlands. And you were actually schooled me. You're like, yeah, I know. I used to live in the
It's
Netherlands.
That's so funny. Yeah, my neighbor who literally lived across the street from me, he was kind of like a grandfather figure for me when I lived there. he had that same name as well, and it was interesting that the only I don't know that many Dutch people, but I guess it's a more common name than I thought, perhaps.
How long have you lived there again?
I lived in the Netherlands for 3 years, so I lived there
3
twice.
years.
The first time for about a year, the second time for about 2 years.
How old were you approximately? Do you remember much about it? I know you mentioned
Oh yeah.
some things about it, but
So I first lived there between probably 5 and 6, somewhere around that time frame.
Mhm.
And then the second time would have been closer to maybe 9, 10, 11 time frame.
okay. So did you move between Netherlands and the United States in that time?
Yep. So I'm from Texas originally. We moved to the Netherlands again when I was 5 or 6. We moved back, and then 2, 3 years later, we moved back to the Netherlands for a few years, and then back to Texas. So it was a lot of moving. I didn't always go to the same schools each
Mhm.
time, but I do attribute it with it helping me forced to be social and meet new people. I got put in a lot of scenarios where I just don't know anyone. I'm just showing up to a school new, and you kind of have to figure out how to interact and meet friends and socialize, which I didn't necessarily enjoy at the time, but I think it's something that helped me interact with people a lot more as an adult.
One thing I find funny about the Netherlands is like even adults eat like it's like a piece of bread with a chocolate paste and chocolate sprinkles on top,
Oh yeah.
and then they have it with a carton of milk. And I was like, yeah, this seems like it would be a child's lunch or something. But I don't know, Martin, do you eat this very often?
A tile of sludge? Yeah, I think you mean the hagelslag, like
Yeah.
sprinkled chocolate on your.
I remember they had a red box and they had a blue box. Well, it was a white box, but they had like different themes to the colors. There was a blue one and a red one. They had the chocolate sprinkles, and then they had like the chocolate like shavings.
Yeah.
The shavings were so tasty. I used to eat those all the time for sure. I was embracing Dutch culture.
Do you not have that in?
In Belgium, they call it mouse poop.
I can
Mouse
see
poop.
they do look like little mouse droppings.
Yeah.
Do you not have that in the States?
Chocolate, like we have chocolate sprinkles, but I think the flakes, like the little shavings, I don't think they really have so much.
Mm.
Let me see if I can find the name of the brand that I was very familiar with. De Ruiter? Am I saying that right?
De Ruiter.
The Writer, that's right. Okay. With the milk, the chocolate milk.
Yeah. Milk.
Yeah.
I think Pogo knows all about that.
She does. Those are super tasty. You should pull up a photo, just so that the stream can see exactly what we're talking about, because I found it to be like if I go to an international grocery store and they have a Dutch section, that one's almost always there.
I think the best Dutch contribution for food is stroopwafels.
Stroopwafels are great. I
Yeah,
really love
they're
apple
actually
and,
channel points here too.
oliebollen. I love poffertjes. I love apple bollen and oliebollen.
Mm-hmm.
I like the little they're like little ginger snaps, the things that you eat like around Sinterklaas. I forgot what
Marzipan.
they're- Yeah, whatever they're called.
I'm sure
so
that was like ring a bell real quick.
I what I really enjoyed about the Netherlands is so you look at like patriotism in the United States, and it's very obnoxious. Like it's more obnoxious than it is in like other countries, and it might be obnoxious for some people in Europe. But I found the festivals and the celebrations to be a lot more fun and a lot more just a lot more safe than in the United States, where everyone was just a lot more like the patriotism in the United States in many cases can be attributed to like very far right wing leaning types of people, and that can get really annoying really quick. Whereas I felt like in the people felt a lot more unified, like when I was in the Netherlands, and a lot of it is not only just celebrating for like King or Queen's Day or New Year's and things like that, but what was so great is seeing the whole response of an entire country for something like a Euro Cup, right? Just everyone getting behind the national team. You don't really see that so much in the United States, at least not for soccer. So that was just something that was a foreign concept for me that I really enjoyed being immersed in. I think it was in the 2000 World or Euro Cup, whichever it was. It was a lot of fun.
Is the place you would like to go back sometime?
In the Netherlands or in general?
Yeah, in the Netherlands.
That's a good question. Definitely not Dunrell, the water park. There
Uh-huh.
was like just nasty, like dirty diapers and stuff everywhere there. That place was nasty. We'd go there like once a year for my school just to go to a water park, and
Uh-huh.
every time it was just like trash in the water. So that was no fun.
I didn't like Duinrol either. No.
Was that in Boston Hour? Oh, okay. I don't remember where it was. I remember that there was a Six Flags.
There's a really good theme park in the Netherlands.
They changed
Slagharen?
the name. It used to be Six Flags. I don't know what
Slagharen.
it is now. Yeah.
I think that's the one.
That was really fun. But like, I don't know. I think
Or
that
after
what I
that.
just really enjoy is going back to just kind of where I grew up. And I lived in Den Haag, or The Hague as it's known, and the kind of metropolitan downtown area. There's a lot of cool shops and department stores and restaurants and museums and things like that. It's very, very urban and metropolitan. And Amsterdam has its own vibe. Amsterdam is a lot of fun. Of
It's
course,
very
there's
nice.
sorts of culture there. But what I liked about The Hague is that it felt a little bit more relaxed, but it still had everything that you could possibly want to do there. And everything was so walkable and bikeable. So if you rent a bike or just get on a bike, you can bike from the downtown to a park to a beach, all in 15 minutes of each other, basically.
It's great.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. It'd just be fun to go see some of my places that I grew up.
Yeah. Do you still ride a bike in the States?
Yeah, my outside bike is like a little scuffed right now.
Mm-hmm.
I need to get it repaired, but I used to ride it all the time, almost every weekend. I would even ride around with my auto catcher on and just scoop up some Pokemon. But I used to ride my bike to and from the gym all the time. So I would like drink a pre-workout drink, get on the bike, like bike 3 miles over to the gym, work out, and bike back. But I don't do that quite as much now that I have a home gym. So now I bike on my exercise bike and work out in my home gym.
It's pretty cool. Gym as a home gym. Yeah.
Gym with the gym. Yeah.
It's Jim's gym, the home gym at Jim's home is what I call it.
I've seen you stream from there, so I know exactly
I have
which
streamed from there before.
which one you're talking about. Yeah. What kind of food do you miss from Les? Have you ever had like bitterballen or frikandellen? Does that ring a bell?
Neither of those ring a bell. The things that are most
Frikandel.
distinct to me, I used to get poffertjes all the time. There was
Yeah.
this little pancake or pannenkoek
Mhm.
house that was right next to the like train station in Den Haag, and I used to go there all the time. I really liked whenever they would have the apple and oliebollen, whatever those were called.
Yeah, for New Year.
It's like little like food vendor carts and things. But and then the chocolate sprinkles like we talked about. Yeah,
Yeah.
those were some of the most distinct things. It was mostly like dessert and things with like powdered sugar on it that were really tasty. I can't really recall too many like savory dishes, like entrees and things that I ate in the Netherlands. But I was probably a picky eater and didn't eat as diversified as I should have.
Do you know Albert Heijn?
I know the Albert Heijn, of course. Yeah, it's like the
Very
closest.
nice.
I mean, like that was like if I was going to go to a big grocery store, for the most part in my neighborhood, like you'd go to, if you wanted to go get some meat, you'd go to a butcher. If you'd want to get vegetables, you'd go to some place that has, like vegetables and produce. But Albert Heijn was the place that was most like an American grocery store. So my family wanted to go to it all the time. They had a kind of a little bit of everything. And some of the stores were actually quite large. They had like multiple floors to them. So it was fun.
Too. So there's a lot of difference between the U.S. and from the Netherlands. What's something you actually really like about Texas that maybe most people wouldn't know?
Yeah, I mean, like Texas has its issues, like any place does. But what I will say, there's no lack of is things to do in Texas, especially in the major cities. So you got Dallas, which is where I grew up. I currently live in Austin, even San Antonio and Houston. All 4 of those cities are in the top 11 for most populous cities. So if I want to go eat at a nice restaurant, if I want to try something that I've never had before, if I want to, go to see a sports game, I can go do that pretty much anytime I want. If I want to go see, a really popular or even a local musician, there's all sorts of things to do there. So I think that as far as entertainment goes, Texas really can't be matched outside of maybe places like New York and Los Angeles, in California. So I think that when I look at it domestically, I mean, Austin's a great place to be. Progressive culture, warm weather. That's probably one of the main things. I do like the warm weather, especially in the winter.
In Netherlands.
Well, it's nice in the summer. It's miserable here in the summer, but in the winter it's quite nice. Like it was 90 degrees Fahrenheit in January. But yeah, I like the local Austin culture. I like the weather pretty well. I like just the amount of like diversification of music and food and cuisine and things like that. And if you need anything, you're like never more than 15 minutes away. When I went to Fort Wayne recently in Indiana, for instance, up
Mm-hmm.
in the Midwest of the
Mm-hmm.
United States, I mean, like you're really it's a little bit of a struggle there because a lot of people have moved away, a lot of industries have moved away. Places that used to be a big hub for like an insurance company, for instance, they moved to a different city, and all of a sudden, 2/3 of the population is gone, and it looks like a ghost town. There's buildings that have no people in them, and 3-hour waits at restaurants and things like that. So I feel very fortunate to live in a very populated place that more people are moving to, and have a nice job so I can afford to live here. But the thing that I don't really feel like as much that you do get in the Netherlands and in Europe in general is you can drive for a couple hours and be in a totally different country with totally distinct culture. Whereas in the United States, it's obviously a lot. Even though there are some cultural distinctions. I mean, if I drive 3 hours in any direction, I'm still in Texas. If I drive 10 hours in any direction, I'm still probably in central United States. So um, I do like how just dense Europe is and how distinct the different cultures are. It's something you don't really get in the United States.
Okay, but isn't there like a culture difference between the states as well in that regard?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, especially when you look at like politically and maybe cuisine in some cases too, there's a lot of distinctions, but I think that there's fewer distinctions between states than there are between countries, right? Especially because most of them have, common federal governments and a lot of laws that apply just nationally rather than just locally. Um, but yeah, I mean, like you go to like Oregon versus Washington, two states right next to each other, both decent sized states. You don't really see too many distinctions whatsoever. But if you go between the Netherlands and Germany, for instance, I think that there's more stark contrasts.
Mm-hmm. Different language, even. Yeah.
Different language, even.
That's actually what I find so easy about the United States, right? Because when I go there, they all speak the same language. It's a little bit Spanish.
It's my main excuse for not being able to speak very much Dutch or Flemish.
Oh, your time is running out, Amanda. We're expecting you to speak Dutch soon.
I will say, as an American, especially if you're in like Northern or Western Europe, or even Central Europe, everyone speaks English. I mean, you go to places like Scandinavia.
Yeah, Scandinavia and like I think Netherlands.
Maybe not France, but Netherlands for sure.
Yeah,
maybe not Germany either. Germany's probably 2/3 of people speak good English, and maybe a third speak okay, or half of a third, a sixth speak broken English, and then another sixth speak no English. But you go to Scandinavia, you go to the Netherlands, obviously anywhere in the United Kingdom, so many people speak English, and I never had to really learn any Dutch, even though they taught it in school. I didn't really retain much at all. I never really had to use it because if I needed something, I could just ask in English, and almost everyone spoke enough English that I could get what I needed.
And that was 20 years ago, where they still speak English. Exactly. They still speak English. It's just something you get taught very early here in the schools, and it just goes on until you're like, I don't know, till you're graduated, basically. So that's why
even before that, Martin, before you even learned it in school, I think you probably had a good grasp on it from television shows. And
I play a lot of Super Mario. I play a lot of Super Mario, which as silly as it sounds, I felt like I already learned a lot of English just from that. Right. So that already.
I saw someone ask, by the way, have you been to Luxembourg? I have been to Luxembourg. Yes.
What was your experience there? That's like a whole mixture of French, German, and English.
Yeah, my college roommate actually lived in Luxembourg City and like the capital for quite a few years. He was doing some work with I think Deloitte over there, or maybe Accenture, some consulting company. But I would always just drive through there. You'd like drive through on like between the Netherlands and France if you're going to like Paris or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
There was a place we used to like to go to that was in the Ardennes forest, if you know that one.
That's in Belgium.
Yeah, so we used to go there sometimes, and like I said, everything's pretty close by. So if we wanted to stop off in Luxembourg for something, we could always do that. So I drove through a couple times, and I don't think I ever stayed there though.
Yeah, it means it's a really small country, so makes
Yeah.
sense. I've been there myself. I think it's one of the most, what's the English word, well-faring country in Europe, right? But I think it's also probably more maintainable because of their size as well, right?
Yeah, they have. So I think that they have some of the highest like per capita like gross
Mm-hmm.
domestic product, which is basically a measurement of like how wealthy people are.
Yeah,
Yeah, so people do quite well there, and I think they have a high standard of living, things like that.
no, exactly.
Moving it back to PvP just a little bit, because you said this earlier at the beginning, like you were kind of copying Caleb's teams and you didn't really have a sense for yourself. But on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your Pokemon Go PvP skills now?
I mean, if I look at the overall community and like if I'm looking at like compared to everyone that plays this game, I would be a 10 out of 10. But there's there's a
Oh,
Is that
huge.
so?
Oh
shots
yeah. I
fired.
mean, like, look, if
Oh,
you
really?
look at all the normies that don't PvP, which is most people, then I think that all three of us would probably be at a 10 out of 10. Like we are all elite battlers when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to the overall skill. But when you look at, if you're really focusing in on the population of, addicted battlers, people that just play all their sets every single day, I mean, I would say that I'm maybe like a solid 8 out of 10. I think I can give most people a run for their money, even some of the top players. But I wouldn't consider myself to be like the most elite player that has all the micro strategies and knows all the counts for everything and waits one turn perfectly every time when
It's
they
not
throw
hard.
their charge moves. I think I'm talented enough and know the game well enough that I can, in a best of three, be competitive versus pretty much anyone. Um, but I don't think that I am a top tier battler, maybe like I used to try and focus on being when I first started streaming.
So a comment in the chat from your good friend, our good friend Alpha Veep. He won't participate in a regional. Why not?
Ooh.
Well,
Why
I
don't
get
you
sent
go
out
actually?
to like pretty much half the regionals I've been at already, and I've been casting. And I'll be completely honest, I'm traveling more than I would like to right now. I've been, and it's been really consolidated. So, um, I just feel like any more travel, and I'd be more overwhelmed. And I'm already overwhelmed. I'll be honest. I feel between work and between
Mm-hmm.
stream and between casting, I'm not really at a balance that I'd like to be. The one thing that's kind of sacrificed recently has been my stream or just me having my own time to decompress. And overall, I'm more of an introvert. People don't realize this, but I definitely need a lot of time off stream, off broadcast, off work that I can just kind of decompress and recover. That's where I get my energy from. And I think that with all the travel that I've done, I haven't had a single thought pop into my head that, oh, I want to go travel to another one and compete in a regional. It's something I guess I'd be open to. But really, what I want to do is spectate, because the thing that I never get to do is just hang out with people at the event. I'm always working, so I'm backstage and either casting or working on some of the admin stuff that's required. But I never just get to hang out in the crowd with people. If I was battling, then maybe I go 0-2 and I get knocked out right away, and then hey, I'm all of a sudden a spectator.
I
But
know how it
what I
feels.
yeah, what I really want to do is just hang out with the homies at the tournament sometime.
No,
I
that's
know
a
you
fair
can't
point.
say because it's like the Indian and everything, but I know that Martin is going to Hartford, so I'm kind of excited to see how he does versus the Americans.
Well, I actually already played against Americans once. I think I went 5 or 4-2. Um, I don't know. I think the American competition is about as good as European. Think currently that we see that the European draw in way more players though. If we look at the most recent one, Liverpool, Utrecht, and the EYC upcoming soon, they're drawing in a lot of people. And one thing that I do like that we currently have Hartford is currently at about 140, 150. So that's already looking to be one of the biggest American ones so far, which is pretty
I
I
cool.
think you
think
have to look at the
besides the
region.
USC, Martin, you casted all of the biggest tournaments, or will be at all of the biggest tournaments then, because Hartford will be the biggest, and Liverpool and Utrecht.
It's like everywhere I go, they just become big.
Yeah,
Yeah, must be
it's
that.
so popular.
What you're saying.
I think it depends on the region. Like if you
Mhm.
look at Salt Lake City for the United States, there was like 40 people maybe. And then you look at something like a Baltimore, it capped out. There would have been more people. They capped them at 128 at that time.
Mhm.
Baltimore
Mhm.
was the first of the season. So I think you have to look at the region and the timing in the season to kind of determine popularity. But the one thing that I think in a perfect world, yes, you'd want to have as many tournaments as possible. But I think that what we're starting to see between season 1 and season 2 is we went from, I think, 3 regional tournaments to 16 regional
Hmm.
tournaments, something like that.
Yeah.
Um, the more that you have, like, yes,
That's
people,
huge.
there will be a lot of people that go to repeat ones. You see people that have been to 4 or 5 themselves, but there's going to be diminishing returns. Increasing the tournaments doesn't necessarily always just increase the amount of people traveling, because part of it's due to region and part of it's due to people just can't afford to go to all of those. So with the US, or I guess North America, having the most regionals, I think that that's going to translate to the number of people per regional to be a little bit lower versus other places that people will travel cross country to go to a tournament because it's their only option, right? Which ideally there'd be a little bit of a better balance and more representation in places like South and Central America, even in Europe.
Mhm.
I know kind of the APAC region has its own format. They do things a little differently than
Hmm.
EU and the
Yeah.
Americas. But yeah, I'd like to see a little bit more spread out with some of the tournaments. I wouldn't say fewer North America ones, but if you're going to continue expanding, stop looking to North America to expand and expand in some other geos instead.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
Yeah, I agree.
also within Europe, it's probably much easier to travel, especially at the if we look at where they are located currently, right? They're all like a little bit within each other's range, right? Like Liverpool and London's pretty close to another. We
Yeah.
have Lille and Utrecht. Well, that's like a 2 hour drive from each other, right? So, and I think for the states, that's just if we're looking at West Coast versus East Coast, that's like a 6 hour flight, is it not?
Going from like New York to Los Angeles, it's at least 6 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So like
But it's just super expensive too. That's the
as
thing. Like
well,
you
yeah.
travel in the U.S., it's I think you're minimum going to pay at least $200-$300 minimum, but you
Yeah.
can very easily get to across Europe for a lot cheaper.
And you have to look at the infrastructure itself. There's not really a good train system,
Right.
either like continentally or locally. So most cities in the United States, their public transportation is just exclusively buses. That's really the best you're going to get. There's not like many places that have light rails. There's not many places that have trains that connect different cities and networks of cities. And then there's not a lot of trains that connect cross state. So there's just so much. If you look at the Netherlands and kind of Central Europe in general, there's especially the Netherlands, it's very dense. It's in so many places, it's just city after city after city after city with very few breaks. And because of that, it's really easy to travel from city to city because there's tram systems and things like that. That's so far different from anything in the United States. I mean, maybe for some ultra metropolitan places like Dallas and New York, they have some good public systems, but it's not like a whole state or a whole country that'll ever look like that.
And just another question regarding this one topic, Wholesome. How
Mhm.
do you think the championship point system would affect Pokemon Go? Will it attract more people to come?
Yeah, good question. So I think that's one of the most heavily debated subjects right now. I think that when you look at the topic, it's just incredibly complex, and there's all sorts of cascading impacts that will be placed on people by introducing that sort of system. I think that if you look at, there's kind of 3 different possibilities. There's a standard system, which is what we have today, which is top 2 at a regional get invites, one gets the travel award, everyone else gets nothing.
Yeah.
If we look at the other side of the pendulum, perhaps it's we only do points and there's no guaranteed invites. So even if you win a regional, if that's the only regional that you go to all season, you're probably not going to get a world's invite. So that's the other side. I think what will likely, to me, make the most sense is some sort of system where you can kind of look at it maybe in the middle, where yes, there's a championship point system, and we'll talk about the points and why that's impactful in a minute. But you can maybe have, okay, top 1 gets an automatic invite. If you win a tournament, you get an invite as long as there's, let's say, you know 64 people, or maybe a lower number, it doesn't matter. Maybe don't even put a number on it. Just if you win a tournament, you get an automatic invite. And then after that, points start adding up. So second place gets 100 points. Then 4th through 8th get, maybe 50. And then the points cascade down. The importance on the point system is that it gives you some incentive to go to a regional. Then you will get some progress. You will make some mark on your progress towards going to Worlds. So as it stands now, you basically have no chance to win a regional. Like when Hot Pocket and Magic Mason and Wadaj and all these people are going to regionals, pretty much every regional. If I was a new player or just a someone that I don't think is an elite battler, I would have no motivation to go to a regional except to hang out with my friends because I
Mhm.
know that I'm not going to win. If because it's with double elimination, you're eventually going to get paired up versus someone that's just that good, and you're going to lose because they're so good. But if you can show up and go 5-2 and make top 16 and get some points, well, at least you feel like you walked away with something. Yeah, you didn't win the tournament, you didn't get an automatic invite, but you got something. So I think that points will encourage people to go to more regionals. Obviously, it depends on people's money and can they afford to go. That's going to be one thing. And some people will start to bring up counterpoints that whoever has the most money is going to just get automatic Worlds invites. They went to 15 regionals and they got 20th place in each of them, and now they're going to be at Worlds. Maybe that will happen. Well, I think it's something that we have to see. But the current system today of double elimination,
Mhm.
only the top two getting an invite, it's not sustainable. It's not encouraging for people to go win. It's either win or you get nothing. And there needs to be more of a kind of a linear regression or linear sort of decline with how you do from the top down to the bottom versus all or nothing. And to Mally's point, I would like to see Swiss or something that's not just double elimination because you can play really well and just get RPS'd right
Mhm.
now in your first two
Especially right
matches.
now.
Yeah. So with double elimination and the RPS nature of this game, it's so discouraging to go spend $1,500, lose 6 straight games to RPS that you have no control over, and then your tournament's done. So that's a little frustrating.
Yeah, I think your point too, because we have a really good player in the Europe. Mind joke, he's an Italian player, and he's gone to every single regional so far in Europe, and he's qualified for day two on almost every regional. So it's like he's an obviously really good player. And if it was some sort of a championship point system, I think he probably would have some sort of qualification by now. But yeah, I can imagine it's really discouraging for him that he makes it so far, and the always just comes just a little bit too.
Yeah, I
Right.
think that there's, equivalents like Trent and Wadaj here in the United States, people that have taken third place at many regionals that make top 8 almost every single place that they go, but they're just always go just short. People like that would absolutely, I think, be at the top of that list when it comes to a championship point system. So I think that that would be a lot more motivating for people when it's either okay, I have a 1 in 128 or maybe 1 in 64 chance of getting an invite. Otherwise, I get nothing. That's just such a bad system. Having points where people, I did really well. I got fourth place. I didn't get an automatic invite, but I got a lot of progress. It will then motivate people to go to the next regional because they're thinking, oh, well, I got 25% of my points that I needed to go to Worlds this year. I go to a couple more. It's just, yes, there will probably be more people spending more money, which some people don't like. They want to just go to one, win, and be done with it. Um, but I think that if we do that hybrid system where the first place wins, if you can win a tournament, you get an automatic invite, and then balance it out with a championship point system, so it's not all or nothing. I think that that would be a more logical system than what we have today. I think it's a separate argument for double elimination versus Swiss, but I think that even though this is the second season, technically, this really feels like the first season. There's a lot of things that are improving and a lot of things that are getting figured out that I think will be um, changed in future seasons.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of possibilities, right? Not only in points, but also perhaps in something like metas, right? Just some sort of idea. I think since it's just all new right now, and I think for just within a season, we're not gonna implement changes. I think all that feedback is likely taken to the next season. So yeah, I'm pretty excited for what will come then. Yeah.
Yeah, there's two angles to look at where change can come from. So number one is from Niantic, of course, and rebalancing Pokemon or adding moves, adding Pokemon, things like that. And we've seen some of that in the past. It has admittedly been a bit more stale this season
Hmm.
than in maybe seasons past. But what you look at some other games, like for instance the video game Scarlet and Violet,
Hmm.
they can rotate eligible Pokemon. I mean, I think that it would be a possibility that Pokemon says, "Hey, we're going to
Exactly.
break the season. We're going to break the season up into 4 portions of the season. For the first portion, here are the Pokemon that are banned.
Hmm.
In the second season, here are the Pokemon that are banned. Third season, etc." So I think that there is some control that Pokemon can have on that, with banning certain Pokemon and making kind of their own metas,
Hmm.
in lieu of Niantic making changes themselves. So it's a balance, and I think that communication between Pokemon and Niantic is not optimal. It's not like just great right now. So I think there's going to have to be more things that the Pokemon Company directly influences for their Play Pokemon Championship series, um, if they're going to try and keep things fresh. And I'd like to see that something planned out at the beginning of the season. The only challenge is that what impacts could that have later on if Niantic is pulling their own triggers, or their own levers. Pokemon's trying to pull levers because there's 2 entities involved. It just makes it more complex and more chaotic.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Someone asked earlier in the chat, and I think you maybe kind of answered it by saying you like to stay home and you're a bit of an introvert, but they asked if you are going to be at the EUIC.
I will not be at EUIC. So they've announced the casters for that one. It's on the Pokemon website. I think that there's even some representation on this call right now. Uh, but no, I will not be at EUIC. I will not be there as a spectator either. People are asking about Hartford as well. I can't announce if I'm casting or not, but I will absolutely be in Hartford. So you guys will see me there. In what capacity, I cannot comment at this point.
Well,
You
I'll be
didn't
glad to
hear
see
it here
you.
first.
Yeah, I won't be. I will not be at EUIC though.
And what suit will you be wearing in Hartford? That's an important question.
Which
Something
turtleneck?
new.
What are you expecting?
Hopefully something new. If I'm going to be
Ooh.
if I'm going to be wearing a suit in Hartford, which yet to be determined. If I'm going to be wearing a suit there, I haven't repeated any of my suits so far. So in the 6 or 7 regionals that I've done so far, I don't think I've repeated any. So my goal is for any upcoming regionals, whether it be Hartford or other ones, that I'll have some new suits. So I'll keep you guys on your toes for sure.
That's impressive. Martin, how many suits do you have? I think we have to start upping our
I
game.
don't think I want to talk about that. I probably have like a quarter of what he has. I have 3 right now. One of which I don't fit. I'm actually looking for if I get more into this. I mean, I've only done 2 so far. I like both casting and competing. If I were to do more, I'll probably should start working on my suit game. Because usually in daily life, I never wear suits. So
Right.
why would I get another one? Like I only need one when within my family someone rarely gets married currently. I have a lot of I don't have a lot of cousins and stuff, right? So right, I just rarely wear them. But yeah, if I have a reason to, I should definitely up my game, because Jim probably has like how many do you have, Jim? Can we get like an estimation? It's like 15.
Yeah, it's probably like 14 or 15 at this point. And someone asked, would I wear a bolo tie? I'm pretty sure that
nice.
I'm pretty sure in Scarlet, one of the people has a bolo tie. So I like kind of incorporating maybe some inspiration from Pokemon games or popular culture,
Mm-hmm.
like we had with my The Rock cosplay last week. So yeah, I think a bolo tie could probably work out.
I mean, also to be fair, you are from Texas, so do you own cowboy boots and a cowboy hat as well?
I have 0 cowboy hats. I have 0 cowboy boots,
Man.
and I have
Yeah.
0 bolo ties. While I am from Texas, born and raised, I don't necessarily feel very Texan. There's a big stereotype with Texan things, and yes, some people absolutely. I mean, I will say, I live 7 miles away from downtown, and from time to time, I do see someone riding a horse down the street. Yes, it happens. But no, the stereotype of cowboy hat and cowboy boots, that's very, I would say, exaggerated from what Texas actually is.
I'm from Iowa originally, and it's a rodeo town that I grew up in, so it was like 800 people. And
you probably have some actual cowboys then, yeah.
Yes, I mean, I think I when I grew up, I had like LA Gear cowboy boots. They were white, and like when I clicked the heels, the like little red lights would flash in them. I looked pretty baller, to be honest.
I think the only time I dressed as a cowboy was for Halloween one time. Yeah.
I see a question in the chat. Can we get a yeehaw?
Maybe. I'm a little congested today, so I don't think I have the energy to be hooting and hollering. Um, but yeah, maybe another time.
You ever been line dancing, Jim?
So I've been country dancing before. I don't think it was line dancing. I went to a place called the Broken Spoke here in Austin, Texas. I didn't know what I was doing. I was mostly just sitting in the background watching other people dance. But I've seen country dancing. Yep.
Fair, yeah. No, that's all great. Jim, we have yeah, Jim, I want to thank you for your time.
Mhm.
This was the first pilot that we had for this that I want to try it on this stream. Obviously next time Amanda will be at home, so we'll probably have
Yeah,
better
better
audio,
set up on my end.
better setup. I want to thank you for your time, regardless. Right, you've been a great. I know you love talking, so perfect to have you on here today, Jim.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, and thank you for having me, Amanda, as well. Happy birthday to Martine. I think just for some closing thoughts, it's really it's a tough relationship with Pokemon Go right now because obviously I think there's things as battlers that we wish were maybe different about the game with more regular updates, and I know that rating has been a big topic as well right now. I think just overall communication between the player base and Niantic is not really what people would like to see it right now. But me personally, as someone that's pretty close to the Pokemon company, there's a lot of optimism that I still have. And while I may individually feel a bit soured with my own Go Battle League experience, especially as it translates to my stream, when I look at the future for Pokemon Go PvP from the perspective of the Pokemon company, there's a lot that they're working on building. I mean, you look and they're investing literally millions of dollars in production and employee salaries and setting up these tournaments. Guys, I guarantee you, like, your $70 to go to a tournament, that's not like paying for the tournament. Yeah, so it's not the tournaments that are like the big revenue driver for Pokemon. It's all the merchandise and everything else like
That's
that.
true.
But what I do have it as someone close to the scene, there's a lot of optimism and a lot of things being worked on to try and build up this competitive PvP scene that we have. So I know we're very small, and I know sometimes we feel underappreciated, lack of exposure and things like that. But I will say that the Pokemon Company right now is doing a lot of work to try and continue to build this PvP community that we have. And there's, even though, like I said, the game itself can sometimes be a bit stale and a bit boring, I think that the competitive scene that's being built from the perspective of the Pokemon lens, there's just a lot to look forward to.
Yeah.
I have one question for you before we leave as well. Kind of in the theme of this for brawlers and the champions. I just thought of this, so maybe it doesn't work well, but I want you to name a player that you think would be like a good brawler, and that would be like someone who's scrappy and maybe doesn't have like a well-known name yet, but you think that they are going to be like up and coming. And then like I'm a champion, someone who maybe is already qualified for something or a well-known name that you think are the best or that deserves some sort of shout out.
When I look at just like the most impressive player to me, I guess I'm answering the second question. The person that I think that I find the most impressive in digging their way out of tough situations, but also knowing the matchups really well and always executing really well. The person that, even though they took second place in Vancouver, its Axon to me is one of the most impressive mechanical battlers that I've seen. Knows his matchups really well, knows all his CMPs. Very, very impressive battler. Will he win every tournament? No, but I think he's got as good a shot as anyone, any format that you put him in. Someone who's more up and coming. Oh, that's a really good question. I don't know. I feel like I know the battling scene so well that it's hard for me to find someone that's like really, really good, but hasn't got as much accolades. One of the people that I think that goes under the radar that I don't think competes at a lot of regional tournaments, but is an absolutely cracked battler is a guy named SJ or S James on Elite TMs. I think that he is immensely, insanely talented. He gets like top of leaderboard running just terrible Pokemon sometimes. I think that SJ is someone that I could see maybe if he played in a tournament being like a dark horse that some people wouldn't know that could maybe sweep a tournament.
I agree. I know SJ, and playing him is always pretty scary as a battle, even for myself. Yeah, I think the one person I was thinking of, don't get me wrong, there's an infinite names probably that we can think of, but one that I would put my money on is Garchomp Glory. He's been becoming so good lately.
Yes, he's very good. I think that maybe like his really deep dive into PvP skill. Maybe started a little bit later than some people, but his capacity, his ceiling is super high, and you'll see some metas where he absolutely pops off. And I would say that he's as capable as almost anyone with a little bit of sharpening of his toolkit. I think that he could be right up there at the top.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Jim. Thank you for doing this with me and Amanda. Yeah. We'll wrap it up here.
All right, I'm out of here, guys. See you later.
All right.
Thanks for having me.